My name's Olivia Bennett, and if you asked anyone who knew me 6 months ago, they'd tell you I was the kind of woman who forgave too easily. I gave people second chances they didn't deserve, let small betrayals slide, and swallowed my pride more often than I should have. But there's something about betrayal from the person you trust most, the person you share a bed with, that turns forgiveness into something foreign. When I first met Jake Miller, he was 29, charming, and the kind of man who could make a waitress blush with a single smirk. I should have known that kind of magnetism didn't just switch off when you were in a relationship. But I was 26, a hopeless romantic, and convinced I could be the exception. We moved in together after 8 months. For the next 3 years, I thought we were solid. Sure, he had late nights at work, and his phone was practically an extension of his hand, but he told me everything he did was for our future. I believed him. That was until one Thursday night. I was scrolling through Instagram when a photo popped up in my feed, posted by a mutual acquaintance. It was Jake at a rooftop bar, arm around a woman who definitely wasn't me. She was laughing, leaning into him in a way you don't lean into your just friends. The caption read, "Best night ever with these two," and tag her, Samantha Cross. I click her profile, public, and full of pictures. Picture after picture of them together, at concerts, bars, hiking trails. Even a selfie of her in our kitchen. My hand shook, but I kept scrolling. The further I went back, the more I realized this wasn't new. This had been going on for over a year. I didn't scream when he got home. I didn't throw plates or cry. I just looked at him and said, "Who's Samantha?" His face froze, just for a second. But that second was all I needed. "You've been going through my social media," he said, defensive. "You've been bringing her into my home," I replied. My voice was steady, almost too calm. He stumbled through excuses. "She's just a friend. It's not what it looks like. You're overreacting." I told him to pack a bag and leave. He laughed at me, actually laughed like I couldn't possibly mean it. That laugh sealed it for me. This wasn't just about cheating. This was about disrespect. I could have just dumped him and moved on. But every smug smirk, every late-night lie, every time I defended him to friends who warned me, those memories burned in my chest. I wanted more than closure. I wanted justice. Jake had two weaknesses, his career and his ego. He worked in high-end real estate and had built a carefully curated public image. Charming, trustworthy, family man vibes. I decided to dismantle both. First, I gathered evidence, screenshots of their photos, flirty comments, and text messages I found on his laptop. He really should have logged out. Then, I printed them and slipped them into a sleek leather folder, the kind his company used for property listings. Next, I created an anonymous email account. I sent the folder contents to his boss, a few of his top clients, and, because I'm thorough, Samantha's boyfriend. Yes, she had one. He deserved to know, too. It didn't take long. By the end of the week, Jake was out of a job. Turns out his company didn't appreciate an employee whining and dining clients' wives, which in one case he had been doing. The boyfriend dumped Samantha in a very public, very messy Facebook post that had more shares than I care to admit. Jake called me, furious. "You ruined my life," he shouted. I smiled into the phone. "No, Jake, you ruined your own life. I just told the truth." Here's where it gets unbelievable. A month after everything went down, I got a call from Eleanor Price, a senior partner at a rival real estate firm. She'd heard about how I handled the situation and was impressed with my attention to detail and creative strategy. She offered me a job in their marketing department, saying she could use someone with my investigative instincts. Now, I make more than Jake ever did. I have a gorgeous downtown apartment, and, just for the cherry on top, Eleanor happens to be Jake's former mentor. Every time she posts a picture of me at company events, I know Jake sees it. And that's better than any screaming match or broken dish could ever be. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about living so well they have to watch. For a while, my life was a quiet hum of satisfaction. My mornings began with coffee by the window of my new apartment, the city buzzing below. Work at Eleanor's firm was challenging in all the right ways, and my evenings were mine again. No waiting up for a man with last-minute client meetings, no pretending not to notice the faint scent of someone else's perfume. But Jake wasn't done with me. 2 months after I started my new job, I got an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a handwritten letter, 2 pages, smudged with what I think were coffee stains, though knowing him, they might have been whiskey. He wrote about how he'd lost everything since I left, how he'd made a terrible mistake, how he'd been thinking about me constantly, remembering the dinners we used to cook together, the way I'd make him laugh when he was stressed. He asked for just one chance to meet for coffee. I didn't reply. A week later, he sent flowers, lilies, my favorite. Or rather, they used to be my favorite. Now, they just looked like an apology that came 2 years too late. I donated them to the receptionist's desk at work. Then came the texts from unknown numbers, the blocked calls, the mutual friends dropping hints that Jake's really changed. I knew the script. Men like Jake didn't change, they just hated losing. Still, part of me wanted to end it with one final decisive blow. That opportunity came during a charity gala hosted by Eleanor's firm. It was the kind of event Jake used to attend regularly: suits, champagne, and high-profile networking. The guest list was stacked with real estate power players, local politicians, and business owners. I knew Jake wouldn't be invited, but I also knew he wouldn't be able to resist showing up anyway, hoping to schmooze his way back into the game. I wore a deep emerald gown that clung in all the right places, the kind of dress that made heads turn when I walked into the room. And just as I suspected, halfway through the night, I spotted him hovering by the bar, trying to act like he belonged. I waited until he caught sight of me. He froze mid-sip, eyes sweeping over me like he was trying to remember how it felt to have me on his arm. He smiled, nervous, almost hopeful, and made his way over. "Olivia," he said, as if my name still had weight. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to Eleanor, who had been chatting with a group of influential guests. Loud enough for Jake to hear, I said, "Oh, Eleanor, this is the man I was telling you about. The one who made that horrible business decision that cost his firm 2 major clients." The group's smiles thinned. One of them, a man I recognized as a top property developer, looked Jake up and down before excusing himself. Jake's face went pale. "Why would you?" he started, but I cut him off. "Because you taught me the most important lesson of my life, Jake. Never trust someone who mistakes kindness for weakness." I walked away before he could answer. Later that night, Eleanor pulled me aside. "You handled that perfectly," she said, "and I think it's time you took on a bigger role here." That's how I ended up as director of client relations before my first year was even over. My photo, me, smiling in that emerald gown, was used in the company's annual report, the one sent to every major real estate contact in the city. I didn't need to send Jake a copy. I knew he'd see it, because revenge isn't just about making them pay. It's about making sure they never forget what they lost.